Hi, I'm Craig. That's my brother Brad. Welcome to Weekdays with Craig and Brad, episode 31, Brad.
31.
We did it.
31 Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors.
Did you ever looked at their logo before and realize that it looks like a 3 and a 1? Did you ever recognize that?
I
you ever
see
seen that
that.
before?
I see. Here's what I did preemptive to going live. I pulled up their original 31 flavors, but I see their logo, and the B and the R both have some pink that kind of shine through the 31 flavors.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's subconscious messaging. But now they have like a ton of flavors. I pulled up their flavors on Wikipedia, and I was like, what are there? Do they still just stick to 31 flavors? And so the original list is 31 flavors, but now they have like a billion flavors.
It's crazy. I mean, check this bad boy out. Look at that.
Yeah,
look at that
31.
Yeah, who'da thunk? Who'da thunk? Anyways, yeah, so 31. Congratulations, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. This is we're going into our 6th week of this.
Wow. It's going by so fast. We've grown up so much together, haven't we?
That's a new episode every single Monday through Friday for 5 weeks in a day. That's outstanding. Actually, no, I think it's even longer than that. Let's see.
I'd like to know who's just now joining us, right? Who maybe like you've come in on the last couple episodes or the last week or so, and you've just found us. Like, let us know, say hi. So I'm just curious who's checking us out, every day.
Well, I'm glad to be doing this with you guys because we've had a wide variety of shows. So we talked about our lives. We've done funny stuff. We've talked about current topics in the world. And today's show is going to be a pretty good one. I'm really excited about this because there's a lot of stuff going on in the show. But before we do that, big news in the world of this show, as something happened over the weekend, we hit our thumbs up goal. Oh my God.
Yeah, we did. We did. Do you know what that means? Our pal Larry is getting a new thumb today. Here's where we were at. Achievement level 4 thumbs was where we were sitting. Larry had said, "What the crap?" Because this was his newest thumb right here.
I see that,
You never know where these thumbs are going to show up. So if you're new to the show, Larry keeps track of our thumbs up records. Every time we beat our record, which is 150 thumbs on the previous video, give it a thumbs up right now, and then if we beat the record, then we'll get a brand new thumb for Larry here, and we're going to reveal it now.
Can I guess? I think it's going to be Unicorn Larry.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. You ready for the reveal?
Let's see it. Let's go.
In 3, 2, 1.
Oh, it's right next to him. All right.
It's right next. Larry says, "Looks like I'm holding a bunch of hot dogs. You want a hot dog?"
I like that he kind of stuttered out of that. You want a hot dog?
you want a hot dog?
Well, that's great. So once again, our next goal, as always, is 150 thumbs up. Let's see if we can get Larry some more thumbs. That's now 5 thumbs. 5 winning thumbs for Larry.
5
Congratulations.
And look how great he looks, Who has thumbs like that? Where are you going to get
hot dogs?
Where are you going to get a mascot like this on any other show on the internet?
I don't know. Good for Larry. Good for
Larry. Way to go, everybody. I hope we get to 6 thumbs real soon. Hit that thumbs up button and we'll see what happens. All right.
Listen, we know for a fact that thumbs up actually helps YouTube with the algorithm. So please do it every single show. We greatly appreciate it. Speaking of things you should do every show is talk to us in the comments, because guess what? This weekend I actually uploaded an extra video this weekend. It wasn't an official Weekdays with Craig and Brad because it was actually weekend. I was on a Saturday.
Solo.
I know. Where I took one of my clips from my Twitch streams, where I've just pretty much been extending out this show in a solo version. We've been talking about stuff, and so I had a person come in. I found out later that they actually created an account right during my stream. So they were obvious. It was a brand new account. It was somebody who was just looking to dig in and create some drama. But they wanted to have a conversation without having a conversation. So anyways, I uploaded that this weekend. It was about a 10-minute video. A lot of people seem to enjoy it. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. But more importantly, that is where the YouTube comment of the day comes from.
All right. Colors of Gaming says, It doesn't matter that we agree. It matters more that we understand one another.
Man, that's such a great comment, and that one wins the YouTube comment of the day.
Fantastic. Great
Nice job.
perspective there.
Hey, 1,700 points for Colors of Gaming for that one. What a great comment right there. Just handing out them points. Love that.
And yeah, that's great. That's high respect from Craig giving out so many points right there.
Maybe one of the best comments of the day we've ever had. Just throwing it out there. It's outstanding.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So look, today's episode is going to be there's going to be a lot to talk about. So obviously we want to hear your thoughts in the comments as we talk about these things. We want to hear your, if you disagree with how we think of this, by all means, we will love to hear how you think in the comments. We want this to be a conversation. All right. Once again, it doesn't matter if we agree or not. What matters is that we talk about it. All right. Conversations are not about changing people's minds. Conversations are just are about having that discourse back and forth, right? I'm not out to change your mind. You're not out to change my mind. As I said in the video on Saturday, people will change their own mind. The only time people change their own mind on their own accord is when it actually sticks, right? Mm-hmm. So by all means, just keep that in mind. So please, if you have a I don't even know how Brad's going to talk about this. Like we just picked a topic today, and it's a topic that's on our minds. And this show is about us, and this show is about our relationship and things that affect us and our relationship with you. So this is why we want to talk about this today. It's a pretty heavy topic, but we feel like it's an important thing to talk about. So
yeah, there's just so much happening in the world right now. We have to just talk.
Well, Brad, how about you give everybody the rundown of what we're going to talk about today?
Well, I guess the big news that's going on right now in the internet world is in social media specifically is that the social media app Parler is getting taken down from all platforms. So after everything that has happened over the last couple of days, after the events that happened on January 6th, there's been a lot of accusations here and there and who's responsible for it. So I guess big tech is sort of, I don't know. I don't want to say that they're ganging up, but it seems like they're ganging up on a lot of different people and companies right now. And so Parler is at the forefront of this. Their app, it's just a social media app, and it's going to be removed, or if it's not already removed, I'm not sure. So yeah, it's going to be removed. There's a lot of hoopla about it. So the question is this right or wrong? Right. So there's a lot of questions about how does this interfere or not interfere with freedom of speech, because there's a lot of perspective going around on whether or not this is right or wrong.
Okay, so let's actually dig into why Parler is being removed. Now, it's not just Parler being removed from the iPhone from Apple, which is, by the way, is the biggest app store in the world, by the way, right? In addition, Amazon, who hosted Parler's servers, they have also removed their servers from them, effectively killing their app and their entire hosting opportunities. I was reading that essentially Amazon came to them and said, you have 24 hours to transfer all your information and all your data because we will not be hosting it in 24 hours. And apparently that's 300 to 500, and that's a big number, but between 300 and 500 servers with the data. And that's a lot of information being transferred in the span of 24 hours. I mean, if you think about a thumb drive, how fast that transfers on a computer, let alone transferring all the information of the internet over the span of 24 hours once you get organized. That's a pretty big undertaking. So Parler is going to be removed. But let's go back to why exactly Apple is removing Parler, right? And a full disclosure, I've never had a Parler account. I don't know anything about Parler. I just know that it's seen as the free speech app, whereas Twitter has received a reputation over the past few months of censoring certain stories related to the election and various conservative groups when it comes to those things. And Parler is seen as like, you can say what you want on our app, and we're not going to we're not going to stymie it in any way, shape, or form, right? And that's essentially what Parler is portrayed as. Like I said, I've never actually been on the site itself, but here it is. So Apple has removed Parler from the App Store following the U.S. Capitol riots. We talked about this. We talked about what things a few days ago. It says Apple said Apple removed Parler, a popular Trump advocate app, which I don't know if that's necessarily a proper way to describe it.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever.
I don't even think he has an account on there.
I don't know.
Be wrong. I don't think he did. But whatever.
So they removed it on Saturday. Apple said last week on Trump's backed social networks. Apple said last week's post on Trump's backed social networks related to the U.S. Capitol riot included a call for violence against Apple's rules for offensive content. So we've always supported the different perspectives expressed in the App Store, but there's no place on the platform that poses a threat of violence or illicit activity, an Apple representative said in a statement. The Parler has not taken appropriate steps to address the spread of these threats to people's safety. We have stopped the Parler from the App Store until the issues are resolved. That sounds really weird. We've stopped the Parler, but whatever. So, this is kind of interesting, right? It's kind of interesting because the thought process, the way I've heard it, and I could be wrong, right? The way I've heard it is that the thought process was that all these people who went to this march up in DC that stormed the Capitol, they circulated and they communicated through Parler, right? And that's how this whole thing happened, right? And I find this like fascinating because number one, I find it fascinating that to think that they would only communicate via one app is like the most crazy thing. I mean, this is the year 2021, right? We're in the future here, and the idea of communicating only through one app is incredibly short-sighted, and crazy,
right?
So I went and did a little digging, Brad.
Okay,
went a little digging because I think it's not my job to decide what's fair or not fair, right? Apple is a private company, okay, and this is the argument. These are private companies. They can ban whoever they want. If you violate their terms of service, you can do whatever you want. But the thing that really stuck out to me was the idea of what exactly why they were banning them, why they want to get rid of Parler, why Amazon is so upset at Parler that they're literally just going to pull their entire 200 or 300 to 500 servers, right? And the idea is that they're inciting violence. Okay. Now, I find that really, really fascinating. But I'm going to put a pin in that really quick because before we get into that, we need to discuss probably the bigger issue with all this, which is probably something a lot of people have heard about on a super high level, and that is this thing called Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act. Are you familiar with Section 230, Brad?
I keep hearing about it. I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't had time to really look into it.
So let's talk about this thing here real quick. Okay, Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, right? This was done in the year 1996. This is when the internet was just becoming a thing, and there was some foresight from various members of the government to say, like, look, the things could be a little crazy here. All right, so let's put some rules attached to this internet thing that everyone's hearing about. So. Tucked inside the Communication Decency Act of 1996 is one of the most valuable tools for protecting freedom of expressions and innovations on the internet. Section 230. Section 230 says no provider or user, no provider or user of any interactive computer services shall be treated as a publisher or speaker of any information provided by any information another information content provider. Okay, so. As it says, in other words, online intermediaries that host or republish speech are protected against a range of laws that might otherwise be held as legally responsible for what others say and do. So what that means is that when you have something like a Twitter or a Facebook, and somebody posts something that somebody posts something on a board or a message board or a tweet or on Parler, whatever Parler is called, or an Instagram post. If somebody posts that, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Parler are not responsible for those things. Okay. Now, this has become an incredible hot topic as people are saying, look, the internet's changed a lot in the last 25 years since this thing has happened. And I thought we'd actually get into that as to how much the internet has changed. So I pulled this up here since 1996. This is what the web was in 1996. To give you a little perspective, Google.com didn't exist yet, right? So Google didn't exist. In January of 96, there was only 100,000 websites compared to the 160 million in 2008. This is now, and this article, by the way, this was in 2008, which was ancient. This is ancient ago, right? I mean, there's 160 million users on Twitter, which I guess, like it's like how many, which is essentially its own little websites as is, right? The web browser of choice was the Netscape Navigator, followed by Microsoft Internet Explorer as a distant second. Most people use dial-up internet connections with mighty speeds ranging from 28.8 kilobytes to 33.6 kilobytes. Highly modern 56K modems would arrive in 1997, and people had only recently started switching from 640 by 480 to 800 by 600 screen resolutions. So by the way, 640 by 480, that is effectively like a 480p TV, right? That's what the 480 means, right? So that kind of puts things in perspective here, okay? As far as what this law, when this law was created, when this Section 230 was created here. And I feel like that's really important when we talk about this and why this is so important, because the internet has changed so dramatically since then. And there's been such a, I think about, the content that we produced for Screw Attack and that we produced for Game Attack and that we're producing right now, right? YouTube could hypothetically have some Klansmen on their platform spewing hate speech, right? Or pick any sort of racist from any race whatsoever. They could come on here and spew whatever they want, and YouTube is protected from that because they didn't actually say that, right? That's the gist of this law. And why it's important is because it's saying that they're not a publisher of this content. YouTube is just being the platform for it. Right. Okay. YouTube isn't saying it. The people on the platform are saying it. Right. But what gets sticky about this is when YouTube, Twitter, Parler, Facebook, any website, Rooster Teeth, pick one, ESPN, right? Starts picking and choosing. Now I'll take a step back. Specifically, the social networks starts picking and choosing what people can see, right? And that is when they become a publisher, when they start changing things, algorithms, picking and choosing what people can see. Then all of a sudden, the argument is that they do become a publisher of news, of information, of free speech, right? So that is very, very valuable when it comes to Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act. Circling all the way back to what I said, right? And I realize I'm going on a big long thing here, but I feel like this is important.
Let it out, Craig.
Well, no, but there's a lot of pretenses here, and why it's so important.
You're doing good.
Okay, so circling back, right, as to why Parler has thus ultimately been removed from the App Store, and the statement from Apple says they were inciting violence, right? So I went in and did a little digging here, and I thought, well, that's really fascinating. So I went in and I looked at the top apps from Apple this year, right? And I said, well, okay, it's YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and Facebook's down there, right? So I just did a quick little dig, right? And I was like, well, so if Parler has these people inciting violence on it, and if Parler has people making death threats, if Parler has all these people who are saying and doing like really, really bad things, we should probably see if this is happening on other platforms, because if Parler is being removed for this, then every other platform that has this type of content that has people making death threats or any sort of violence should also be removed. I mean, it only makes sense, right?
Well, think of this. Parler is like one of the newest social media apps around, right? They came out of nowhere over like the last year or two. And they were #1 in the iTunes store.
Up until they were removed.
Until they were removed. Now, those users came from somewhere else. They came from Twitter. They came from Facebook. So if you're going to say it's the Parler users, right? Where are those accounts on the other social networks, which is what you're saying? Right.
Well, what's fascinating though is that these things, like I said, I did a little digging, right? So, we'll just start with we'll just start here, right? With YouTube. Let's see. So YouTube is the #1 app on the App Store, right? And Parler was removed for people inciting violence, and I think that's horrible. You should not tell people to go out and cause hate or destruction. That's a bad thing to do. But if you just Google, or if you just go on YouTube and look for YouTube death threats, right? You can find all these people that are, how to deal with YouTube death threats. This is from 12 years ago, right? This is from 1 month ago. The real reason we are moving, death threats. I wish I was kidding, right? These are people talking about death threats that they're receiving on YouTube. So, I think if we're looking at here, chances are YouTube should probably be removed. It just makes sense. Well, let's go to Instagram here. In Instagram, well, let's see. I'm sorry. Let's look at Snapchat real quick. A 13-year-old boy was stabbed to death in a park was possibly lured by Snapchat messages. So he was having a conversation on Snapchat, lured there, and guess what? He was killed because of a conversation that happened on Snapchat. Right? That's horrible. Right? How can Snapchat and Apple deal with this? Do accidents just happen? I don't understand. Let's continue on. There's Snapchat right there. Let's take a look at see here. Oh, here we go. TikTok. Feds investigating racist, hate-filled TikTok threats sent to Georgia middle school students. Well, we don't want that. That sounds that's racist and hateful. Potentially looking at attacks at a middle school student of all people. These are children that are receiving these things, and this is a top 3 app as it comes to on the App Store. Let's take a little real quick. Facebook's a top 10er. Hey, Facebook, let's just Google Facebook death threats. There's an entire page of people here saying, how do I report a death threat on Facebook? This is a common problem.
That's on under their community pages. So that's common enough for them to put in their help and community questions.
How can I do it? How can I report a death threat? Right? This is a common thing.
They have a protocol to deal with it.
Yes. Yeah. This is something that happens all the time. This is violence happening on their platform. It should be removed. Yeah. Hey, Amazon is on here. Amazon Shopping. So I thought surely there's no death threats on Amazon, right? There's of course no incitement of violence on Amazon. Why would we want to why would we want to talk about overthrowing governments? Oh wait, how to overthrow the government paperback, April 1st, 2001. You can literally get a book about how to overthrow the government on Amazon.
Oh wow,
this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So
good work, Detective Craig. I'm impressed.
1, 2, 3, 4. I guarantee we could find something on Messenger. Gmail, there's stuff on there. Netflix, hey, look, we can talk about that separately. Facebook, Amazon Shopping, all right? Oh, but I'm not done real quick. Hey, Twitch, if you just look for death threats, this is during live streams that are happening. Death threats during live streams are happening. This is a popular app. I have it on my phone. It's crazy. Oh, and by the way, Twitter's not a top app, but hey, tweets wishing for Trump's death violate Twitter policy, company says. Sure, but this is happening on their platform. It violates their policy. But what are you going to do about it? Yeah. This is one of the most popular social networks in the world. Yeah.
Take them down.
It just It just seems like if we're playing with the same deck for everybody, the same
Right.
standards, that you treat everybody equally. And like I said, I have no horse in this race. I've never been on Parler before.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm just observing from afar and making simple observations.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I had an interesting conversation with somebody on Facebook last night, and we did not agree, Craig. We did not
What?
agree, but we had a lot of back and forth.
Hey,
And what?
Give it up for Colors of Gaming. It doesn't matter if you agree. It matters that you understand one another.
And that, I think, is what we were trying to do with our conversation, is understand each other and how we were thinking. Now, I will say this, full transparency. I have a Parler account. Do I use it? Not really. I signed up for it because whenever these new social media things pop up, you go, oh, do I need to be on there? Let me check it out. What was that one that was 6-second videos a few years back? And Vine, right? Like I had a Vine account and I had this account. And so signed up for Parler. I checked it out. And so I was having a back and forth with somebody last night who basically said Parler was used to set up treasonous acts. And I was like, well, why don't you, are you on Parler? Like, where did you see this information? How do you know it was specifically Parler? She goes, well, I read an article about it and I saw some screenshots. And so I was like, okay. Yeah. Well, maybe they bought the book on Amazon. Did you ever think about that?
That's right.
I mean, maybe that. So here was my point really was, she sent me like a few screenshots and I was like, look, I'm on Parler. If I was to sum up Parler in a nutshell, it's like a bunch of 50s and 60-year-olds ranting about freedom and, wanting their voice to be heard, right? If you had a wartime grandpa talking to you on the 4th of July all day, that's the app, right? Like it's about freedom and independence and patriots. It's like the 4th of July as an app kind of thing, whatever you want to call it. And so I was like, are you on the app? Like, why don't you just download it? It's going to be deleted soon. Just go on and check it out. Tell me what kind of stuff you see on it that's so dangerous that you think that you're seeing. And she didn't want to, she was just like, well, it's not available. And I think it was already taken down from the Google App Store or something like that. But it was just interesting because I thought, so she sent me like a handful of 5 screenshots that in all honesty is users on Parler. I double checked, the users exist. The things that they were saying were completely inappropriate and shouldn't be said anywhere online. But I was also going, well, look, those statements that they're making, you can find those on literally any other social media network. And just to our point of what we were talking about earlier, those users came from those other social media networks not too long ago, right? They where did they hear about Parler? Oh, they were on Twitter, right? So if you have that in your mind that you want to hurt somebody, that's the individual. And what's bugging me about this is the lumping of the group of everybody, right? So she sent me like 4 screenshots that was like 4 different users. I'm like, out of how many people that are on Parler, out of how many people that were there that day. Now, I'm not condoning what they were doing. I'm not making an excuse. I think, those people don't need to be online. They should be reported, right? If they're making those kind of threats. But specifically, are we just only looking at Parler, or can we go and look at Twitter, And in our conversation spiraled, I had her start searching for things that were just readily available on Facebook through groups and things like that. Facebook groups that are still up, that should be reported. And it's just interesting that one of the biggest problems, I think, in our conversation is that we're taking every bad seed and we're just lumping everybody together with that bad seed. Everybody, like, oh, I don't agree with that side. So they're all they're all bad, right? So I don't know. I'm just saying, where's individual responsibility? There's my question.
Well, that's hilarious. Well, what we do know is that it's a company's responsibility to lay the banhammer down on people who who they deem not worthy or unsafe, and that's what you're seeing here is this this idea. I think the scariest thing for me is the idea that this is the idea of Apple or Amazon saying like this is for your protection, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is for your protection. We don't want you can't have these things because they could hurt people, right? People on people on Parler or insert any social network at all could potentially get together and cause some sort of chaos, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like talk about destruction of certain things. It's just a fascinating conversation. It's very Big Brother, it's very scary. It's legitimately very scary.
We tend to brush it off. I was thinking about this. We tend to brush things off that happen online, or we tend to, like, I don't know, carve them out specifically in a certain way. It's ones and zeros, people, right? Like really everything that happens online is a far cry from what's happening in reality, I guess you could say. But I was thinking about it in physical terms, and I was thinking every social media platform is a plot of land, and all of our profiles are little houses on that plot of land. And I was thinking, imagine the owner of the land doesn't like you. He just doesn't like you, right? So he decides to lock you out of your house without telling you, right? And so then you're like, oh, I can't get in my house. What's up? Well, the owner doesn't like you. And then you're like, all right, you can come back in 12 days. He'll open up the doors back up. You can't access any of your things, any of the stuff you've put in there yourself.
Right.
But you're not allowed to, right? Then the owner decides he really doesn't like you, right? So instead of waiting 12 days to let you back in, you know what he does? He sets fire to your house. And the whole thing is set on fire. And all your stuff that you put in there is destroyed. You can't get it back. But it's his land, so it's his right to do it, right? He's sending you a message. I don't like the way you think. And if you think this way, guess what? I'm going to start burning down your friends' houses too. Because that's what's starting to happen, right? It's not just one person. It's one person and then the person next to it and then the person next to it. And it's the associates, right?
Right.
And so to speak to your point on Big Brother, it is very like, hey, listen, whatever you think of anybody in the country, right? You don't get to just be like, you're not allowed to be that way, right? Or else we'll send you a message and we're going to hold you accountable for what we think you are, right?
Well, yeah, I think, and this, there's a comment the other day that let me see if I can pull this up really quick. That was, I felt like was a good comment, and it was on my conversation upload, right? And I want to make sure I read this properly because I just want to make sure I read this properly because it's important. It's important to have these conversations. Like I said, I would love to hear people's thoughts on this. All right, this is from Launchpad McQuack. He says, "Hey Craig, longtime fan. I agree you can't make people change their mind." This is in the conversation, obviously. He says, "But would you agree that there are things that cannot be tolerated? Nothing specific in general, but in general." There are things that are not tolerated amongst a community, whether we're talking country, city, online, community, etc. I said, sure, but who's to decide who becomes the tolerant police? Something that may be tolerant to your culture may not be tolerant in others. It's a very slippery slope, right? And I think that's what we're seeing right now is Apple saying, well, now that's not tolerant, right? And Amazon saying, no, that's not tolerant. We can't, that's unacceptable. We can't have this in our society, right? And essentially, the idea of like the president being the most powerful man in the world, wrong. Big tech all of a sudden has become the most powerful people. Not just all of a sudden, they are without a doubt the most powerful people in the world, controlling information, how they spew it. And that once again circles back to Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, when you can talk about those things. So, if they're deciding what goes in and out, then they become what's considered a publisher, and that needs to change. They need new classifications for all these things. And if they're going to say you can't talk about this, if they're going to say, if Apple's going to say this, I want to be really clear. There are apps that should not be on Apple, right? But there are tons of. Is YouPorn? Is that an app on Google?
I don't know if it was an app, but I do know that Pornhub and its parent company MindGeek is under a $600 million lawsuit right now for posting inappropriate things. And all of them, and all of its subsidiaries, they all have active Twitter accounts, and there are Facebook groups. But no one seems to be blocking those channels of distribution. And there's some really, terrible accusations going on there. So
yeah, it's pretty rough. Well, like I said, I took a pretty good look at all the top free apps, and you know what? I think pretty much they all need to go. They all got to go. I'm pretty sure if you go on DoorDash, you'll find something that's offensive as well. So, we'll see what we can do about that.
We're 20 minutes late. I'm going to come over to your house and fart.
No, there it is. See, that's violence, and that's assault. You know that? Assault. Some could argue sexual assault.
Man. Yeah. What I hope one day. I don't know. I'm gonna pull a Joe Biden phrase and say, I shouldn't say that.
Well, this isn't going to end anytime soon.
Yeah,
and I think that's the scariest thing about this, right? With that said, I think if the Parler folks were to go out and just take their existing code, and they say no one will spin up servers for them. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues, is that if they won't work with, if they're not able to work with Google or Amazon, then nobody wants to work with them because they've kind of been blacklisted, right?
Yeah.
But in theory, the idea is that if you have a strong enough platform, people will find you.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of, will they be able to host? So
yeah,
who knows?
I don't know. It's the dawn of a new internet, Craig.
Scary.
Back in the MySpace days, it was just sort of like one day MySpace was just sort of gone, and we all just were like, "Oh yeah, I guess we're over here now on Facebook." Well, I think we're watching the kind of the end of the social media era. I think it's going to start because everybody's starting to look for other avenues, and then it's just going to become so spread out that the internet has been so centralized, right? Like when you get on your phone, well, you're not on Twitter anymore, but what did you do? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Basically, it's centralized around social media. And now that this is happening, and a lot of their users who are getting blocked, banned, and moved, they're going to be moving to other platforms, and it's just going to get spread out and thinned out. And then the guys that were in the middle are really going to start, I think they're going to start feeling it. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, speaking of MySpace.
Yeah.
Check it out. Cops say East Coast teen admits MySpace threats, warnings about shooting people.
Yeah.
Now this is in 2007. Updated June. Oh, look at that. They actually went back and updated things 5 years later. That's good for them. But yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Look, long episode, important episode, but I'm sure we'll continue this conversation. And I would appreciate if you guys, if you found my research valuable, consider spreading the word on this video. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. We'll continue the conversation here, and we'll talk about some fun stuff as well. But we want to talk about what's topical and what we're passionate about and what we care about. So hopefully we earn your subscription today. I'm sure some people will be pissed. We'll probably lose your subscription. Totally get it. But I hope that
as long as we don't receive death threats, Craig.
Well, it doesn't matter because YouTube won't be pulled off the App Store. So, but listen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we agree. It matters that we understand each other. So if you don't agree, that's fine. Please let us know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and let us know. So, all right, guys, sounds good. Brad, I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.
All right. Yeah. God, if the stars align and Zeus shows up to align the planets, we'll make it there somehow to episode 32. I'm not as good as it is you. Do one. Craig, are we going to make it to episode 32?